Hello everybody, it is Saturday the 7th of October. I am just about to go outside and do another recording before the bad weather comes in. I just wanted to thank those of you who have been making comments about the volume of the music and the contrast with my own voice. I'm sorry if it's interfering with your enjoyment of the videos. That's obviously not my intention. I just wanted to explain that I'm using this Vlogtober experiment really to see how I can work out how to use the video editing software, which includes changing different soundtracks and the like. I have taken the criticisms on board. I certainly haven't taken them personally, so I don't want anybody to be in the least bit concerned about making even the most slight negative comment. I totally understand that you want to enjoy what I've done. I'm sorry about yesterday's in particular. I don't know what's gone wrong with the audio on that, but I am currently rendering the video, and I will re-upload it as soon as it's done, so that if you want to watch it without the really annoying loud, there is still I couldn't get rid of it completely. There is still a slight background sound, but I've significantly reduced it for you. Over the next 3 weeks that are left in October, more or less, I will be trying other techniques. I appreciate that might interfere with the enjoyment for some of you, but it really does help me to hone my skills with the video editing software. The once a week podcast, as you know, I try to record direct to camera in a single shoot if possible, or certainly not editing the video unduly unless I have to pause for whatever reason. So I just wanted to speak to you directly before I go into the main part of this vlog, so that you can understand where I'm coming from and understand why I appear to be sticking with something that you find distracting at the very least. And I really am truly sorry if it irritates you, but I hope you can understand the process I'm actually going through trying to develop these skills. So with that, I will be changing the way in which I present the next week of the Vlogtober. And I think some of the things I've learned from the last week will become apparent. There will be other techniques that I make a complete hash of, but bear with me and we will get there. So thank you very much, and I will speak to you all very soon. Bye. Well, I am down here now in the centre of Abingdon. I've come down to the riverside. In fact, you can just hear the geese and ducks on the water behind me. Behind me, the building behind me has it's an attractive facade, but this is not the most significant part of this building, and I will explain more about that once we go around the other side. Sorry about the passing traffic noise. This road behind me is a one-way road cut through from a housing estate to the south of Abingdon town centre without having to go along the main road, so it tends to get some traffic coming through from time to time. If I turn the camera this way, you can see the bridge, Abingdon Bridge, along the River Thames, and I was standing on the other side of that bridge for my previous video, so I'm on the other side of the town centre right now. This area is now called Abingdon Marina. It was previously the wharf, and in fact at the very end of this short esplanade, if you like, there is still the remains of the St Helens Wharf going down to the riverside. I'll just walk along there and show you. As you can see, we have quite a lot of boats on this part of the Thames. It's a very beautiful part of the country, and so people like to take in the scenery by just going slowly down the river. I believe the speed limit is 4 knots, so it isn't the quickest way to get to places, but it is certainly a very attractive way of getting there. So as you can see, down here behind me is a wharf going down to the river. This would have been quite a significant landing spot in the past, and I would suspect that the building behind me probably was a warehouse in former time, although it's now more likely. I'm actually not sure what it is. It's more likely to be a dwelling though. And the church behind me, this is St Helen's Church. Now, St Helen's Church is a fascinating relationship with the monks of Abingdon Abbey. The abbey was very powerful, very rich. It controlled all of the wealth of the market town, and also had the complete monopoly on burials through the early Middle Ages, so from around the time of the conquest in 1066 right the way through until the 14th century. And there are a number of lawsuits between the people of Abingdon from St Helen's Church and the monks of Abingdon from the Abbey Church concerning unlawful burials, and at one point in the late 1390s the townspeople had to exhume 37 bodies from the churchyard in St Helens and rebury them and pay the fees in the churchyard at the abbey. There was such little love lost between the two ecclesial communities that the bells of St Helens were actually used as the signal in the 1370s for a riot that took place with a few of the townsfolk from Oxford who came down for the day, where they attacked the abbey buildings as in a protest. So I'm now just walking into the St Helen's Churchyard, which as a consequence of these disagreements has relatively few bodies buried here, considering the length of time the church has been established. We know for certain that St Helen's Church was here in 995 AD. I keep saying AD as if a church to Jesus Christ could have been in the time before Christ, but there we go. That's just habit more than anything else. So the church was definitely here in 995 because a servant who was involved in a brawl with another servant sought refuge in the parish church. It's the first written record that the church actually existed, although it's believed that the church was probably here at about the same time that the abbey was being founded. There is some evidence to suggest that there is an early Saxon minster, archaeologically subsumed into the groundworks of the modern church, as it were. And there is even some evidence that the Saxon minster was actually based on a pagan shrine that may have been here pre-Roman times. So it's got a substantial history, and it would be quite normal for a riverside location to have such a shrine. As a result of the contested status of the parish church of St Helens with the neighbouring abbey, the town eventually in the 1440s won a charter which permitted them to incorporate the church as an independent institution with the town council. So having received its charter from the Crown, the church's first action was to build the Long Alley Almshouse, which is this building in front of me. It was designed to hold 20 poor people from the parish, particularly the elderly and disabled who may not be able to supply a living for themselves due to their infirmities, but who had good character and were respected within the local community here in Abingdon. What we have in front of us now was actually rebuilt in 1605, and the paintings were added and scriptural verses were added along the long gallery inside. And the almshouses are to this day still used as almshouses by the church and by the local community. The paintings are not particularly significant. They are just positive Bible verses. They have no artistic merit particularly, but they are quite striking. So the Long Alley was the first of the almshouses to be built, and about a century later the second set were the Twitties almshouses, which are up ahead. Despite having been built so late, relatively speaking, the houses actually share much the same architectural style as the restored Long Alley Almshouse. These almshouses are still in use today, although they have been knocked together to provide the larger living accommodation that most people would expect today, but they are still very much used by people in the parish. There is a third set of almshouses within the church grounds, and this is known as the Brick Alley House. Now, the Brick Alley House was built about 10 years after Twitty's was built, but in fact it was self-consciously built in the modern style. So once again, much of the brickwork is similar to Twitty's, but the style of architecture is very much neoclassical. It's very much following what was at the beginning of the 18th century de rigueur in modern building styles in England. These are the almshouses that we saw, the stone facade on the other side facing the river. And again, there is enough accommodation here when they were originally built for 20 of the poor folk of the parish, and they have now been converted into self-contained flats, but again are still very much in operation and very much appreciated as social housing by those who are afflicted with infirmity or simply older now. The reverse of the Long Alley Almshouse really gives away its Tudor style in architecture, particularly the rather fine chimney stacks. The garden area is an enclosed garden for use of the residents only, but as you can see it is all really rather nicely appointed. Almshouses such as this became more of a necessity following the dissolution of the monasteries, because although the monasteries did have extremely rich friends and allies in government which allowed them to dominate local communities, they did also provide what we would now consider to be the social services of healthcare and support for the poor and support for the elderly and the infirm. When the monasteries were dissolved, it took only a very short period of time for the towns and city aldermen to move in and undertake the same work. One of the most important effects of the Charter of the 1440s was that the Church of St Helens was able to establish its own mill here at the riverside, on the side of the River Ock, which is a tributary of the Thames and runs into the Thames just at the end here. The main street running east to west through Abingdon is called Ock Street, and there are several traditions relating to Ock Street, which I will probably go into Monday or Tuesday. And when I do, you'll understand why I'm leaving it until then. So the mill here provided the income for the church to be able to afford to build the almshouses. The almshouses were also funded heavily by generous benefactors who had come from Abingdon but moved to London to make their fortune and never forgot their roots. This is the point where the Ock River flows into the Thames. As you can see, the bridge has the inscription erected by the Wilson Berkshire Canal Company, AD 1824, and cast at Acromans in Bristol. So it's a cast iron bridge that was built to enable these two banks of the Ock to meet up and to replace, I think it was a wooden bridge that was here previously, which had to be repaired from time to time. This cast iron bridge is still standing firm, nearly 200 years on. I've always loved this view of St Helens. I lived for a short period of time in South Abingdon and used to have to walk this way every morning in order to catch the bus, and I just loved rounding that corner and seeing the church tower and spire in front of me every day. It was such a lovely feeling. So standing outside St Helens Church, just over there, where a wedding has just been finished and the photos have just been taken, the road running straight up there, as the car is about to go past, is West St Helens Street. This is East St Helens Street, and I thought, and as you can see, just in the distance is the County Hall that I've mentioned previously. I just thought I'd walk down here.
What was Wrigley?
because there are some really attractive Georgian houses on this street, and I suspect some are earlier still, but they've all been restored quite lovingly, and it's rather an attractive street. I'm just outside St Ethelward's house, which is just a building, and just thought I'd give you a sense of the beauty of this street. I'll just turn around and give you a pan view. I just think it's a rather attractive, eclectic collection of houses. I just thought I'd stop here. We're about 2/3 of the way up St Helens Street, East St Helens Street, and there's this lovely 15th century house, in fact, behind us, which now belongs to the Oxford Preservation Trust, was bequeathed by the previous owners to them on her death, and has been beautifully restored by them. There is a wonderful garden inside, and it's well worth going to see if you have a chance to come to Abingdon. And I just thought I'd show you across the road as well these two rather fine Georgian buildings. It's very difficult because the street is so narrow, but I'm hoping you're getting some sense of the sheer beauty of these buildings. Back up at the top end of East St Helens Street, and there's the Church of St Nicholas that we saw the other day. There is an event going on in the Market Square today, raising breast cancer awareness, and the County Hall has been festooned in pink bras, which is certainly a way of getting attention and raising the awareness of breast cancer. The County Hall is now a museum and has been since the beginning of the 20th century. It's recently been significantly refurbished, and from the very top of the County Hall, on major royal occasions like coronation, jubilees and significant royal weddings like that of William and Kate, the town parish council throw iced buns to the crowd, who stand all around waiting to catch them. This is a tradition going back several hundred years and is keenly participated, although very few people actually manage to catch the buns. But there are plenty of happy people trying. So I hope you've enjoyed my little tour of St Helens Church and its environs. The building behind me is the backside of the Guildhall, which was that awful 1960s brutalist architecture that I showed during my tour of the Abbey precincts. This is where I vote, and is also the registry office, so people get married here. So it's quite a busy, popular place. It's our Tourist Information and Abingdon Town Council building. I just wanted to give some caveats to my little rant about the brutalist architecture of the Guildhall. Brutalism can be very attractive, and it certainly has a place architecturally. And there are some very fine examples of brutalist architecture. This Guildhall is not one of them. It shouldn't have been built. It certainly shouldn't have replaced what was there previously, which was aesthetically much more pleasing. I'm very much a fan of preserving the best of what is best and creating today things that will still be wonderful to look at 300 years' time. That's my only concern about a lot of modernist architecture, is that it's thrown up without much thought and is just as quickly ripped down again. So anyway, I'm not going to have a rant about it. I just want to thank you all for spending some time with me again. I will be recording my normal podcast, and I hope those of you who haven't joined me for that yet will consider coming over and seeing my life in the fibre arts. Once again, if you have any comments, please don't spare my feelings. I am never going to learn if people don't tell me what is wrong, so I look forward to any comments, positive or negative, that you may have about the production in this video. And I look forward to speaking to you all again tomorrow in my vlog, and later on today in my podcast. Bye.